Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby here on WAKR, brought to you by NECA-IBEW, with the vice president with the Cleveland Indians, my good friend Bobby DiBiasio, with us on WAKR. And Bobby, we're not too far away, about 1 month away from the amateur draft for Major League Baseball. And so many people, when they think of draft in the NBA, it's, boy, can't wait. NFL, one of the big things. With Major League Baseball, I don't know what it is, and I'll let you expand a little bit on it. We all look forward to the baseball draft. I think it's grown in popularity in the last decade, but still on the back burner a little bit. Probably has something to do with the tie-in with collegiate sports and stuff like that. But the Major League Baseball draft is huge for organizations like the Cleveland Indians. And why don't I let you take it from there?
Well, no question that the draft is so vitally important to all of us in Major League Baseball. It's our player development systems are the lifeblood of every organization, especially all the middle market teams. We have to develop our own. I agree with you, Ray. You said that the popularity of the draft has grown. I agree with that. I think that has grown in concert with the popularity of college baseball. Currently, you can watch, the College World Series, both baseball and softball, which are pretty wonderful entertainment. A couple pitchers from Vanderbilt, one specifically the son of a big leaguer, former big leaguer Al Leiter. His kid's a big-time pitcher at Vanderbilt. Interesting to see where he may get drafted. This year's draft has been moved to July. Sunday night, July 12, to be part of the All-Star Game festivities. And it gives teams an extra month. Normally it's been in early June, but it gives teams an extra month to be able to watch these kids play in the tournament, for one, and then give other kids a chance to play at sites like Mahoning Valley, where the MLB Draft League is situated, where there are scouts out there looking at kids who want more eyeballs on them, so that they can hopefully get drafted. But what really prompted me to reach out to you to possibly talk draft is yesterday in the New York Times, or on Sunday, it was Sunday in the New York Times, Tyler Kepner, wrote a column, baseball writer for the Times, wrote a column about the best draft pick ever. What draft pick had the most impact on their organization? And it was truly a interesting article. And he indicated that he thought Mike Schmidt had Dayton kid, went to Ohio U, signed with the Phillies, stayed with the Phillies his entire career, obviously helped him win World Series, multiple Gold Gloves and MVPs and All-Star games, and that he had the most. And it got me thinking, well, I wonder who that is for the Tribe. We sit and we've had some pretty big names get drafted in this franchise. So that just got the ball rolling on this discussion.
Well, and let's roll with that discussion, because I think we could throw out, you probably more than me, some names that come right to my mind. One of them is the guy just left us this year with free agency, Francisco Lindor.
Right.
I think of CC, who was a real high draft pick of us. But why don't you go down that road a little bit?
Well, yeah, CC was a number one draft pick. Before we dive into us, as I was thinking through this, the Seattle Mariners are interesting too. They had number one draft picks because they, at the beginning of their establishment in big league baseball, they finished last a lot. And so they were getting the number one overall pick. And they had Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr. I don't know if they were back to back, but they were not that far apart. Those are two pretty big, impactful names. I wonder how they would have to handle that. But with us, I just remember Ray Fosse telling me the story and how this whole thing has changed from a Francisco Lindor who sits in the gymnasium with the telephone and the whole student body's there when they're getting announced as the number one draft pick. And I remember the very first draft, 1965, not that I was working it, but in a conversation with Ray Fosse, that he was like in English class, I think he said, at his high school in Chicago, outside of Chicago in Illinois, someplace. And the principal, actually, if you remember, classrooms had telephones in them. So he's sitting at English class and the telephone rings, the picture, and the teacher goes over, picks it up and hangs it up and looks at Ray and said, Mr. Fosse, the principal would like to see you. Everybody's hooting and hollering. They all knew it was draft day. So everybody was wondering, because they kept asking him, who's drafting you? Who's going to? And so he had no idea. So he walks down the principal's office, and it was a scout for the Cleveland Indians saying, hey, you were our number one draft pick in the very first draft ever. So the way that gets announced and people are informed is a whole lot different than that first year. But you think about Charlie Nagy in '88, and I'm just going to whip off some number one draft picks other than one guy who I think is our most impactful. Manny Ramirez, of course, could be considered one of the, if not the greatest right-handed hitter of his generation. As you said, CC in '98 was a number one draft pick, but Jim Thome, 13th round. I think he was 333rd player chosen or something, 13th round, and ends up a first ballot Hall of Famer and the Indians' all-time home run king, and a guy that is in the top 10 in 11 different offensive categories for our franchise. So if you held me up against the wall and said I had to pick one, I think Jim Thome's the guy that I would pick.
When you look at that draft too, Bobby, it's it's amazing where these players all get scouted from the colleges to the high schools, and players and scouts all over the country looking at these particular players. And I remember a couple of the kids that I coached being at their parties when the phone rang, and it's just something out, jubilation. You've probably seen a lot of that when these kids, to say, come into Progressive Field for the first time after being drafted. I imagine you've seen some great emotions.
Absolutely. Back from when Corey Snyder was drafted number one, coming in town, coming off playing for the United States Olympic team. Same with Charlie Nagy. He immediately went. He was a college guy, as Corey was a BYU kid. Charlie Nagy was University of Connecticut, and then he went straight to play in the Summer Olympics in '88 and Team USA, and then comes for the very first time to meet up with the player development baseball people at the Indians. And so you have them down on the field and do a little press conference with them and get a chance to talk to them. But the one I remember more than anything is Manny Ramirez, and number one draft pick in '91. And, we're not at Progressive Field yet. We're still at Cleveland Stadium. The infrastructure, in-house facilities were absolutely horrific, one batting cage underneath the bleachers and that sort of thing. So we're out at Baldwin Wallace University having a little BP session with all of our draft picks that had signed, all came to Cleveland, and we took them out to BW and had workout on their field. And all the student athletes, baseball players, were hanging out watching the kids we just drafted to see how good they were, how they compared to those kids who were just drafted and signed to a professional baseball contract. And I remember talking to the coach as Manny Ramirez got into the batter's box and was hitting balls. And the coach turned to me and said something to the effect, I've been coaching here for 20 plus years. And even in BP, no one's come near where he's landing those balls, hitting it so remarkable. And Manny was the USA Today High School Player of the Year out of the Bronx, and just Gatorade Player of the Year. I mean, it one of the great draft picks of the Indians ever. And I just remember that one, that all the kids were just so excited to see who was a part of professional baseball, and that was their dream as well. But that right-handed hitter in Manny Ramirez. But Jim Thome, getting back to it, I think the most impactful might have to be 13th round pick, Mr. Jim Thome.
Hey, Bobby, with Vice President of the Cleveland Indians, Bobby DiBiasio, with us, brought to you by our good friends at NECA-IBEW. Bobby, early last week, the zip ties were cut in the stadium, and we went to full capacity, at least for a couple of days. I know the weather played havoc in there as well. Looking forward to see how the crowd will roll out for this coming weekend with the Twins and then the Orioles coming in. But talk about that full capacity now in play for the Indians going back to last week.
Yeah, excited. Whole lot easier taking your little heavy duty scissors and snipping the zip ties than putting them on. I can attest to that. It didn't take long, to get rid of them and put them on, and we were so happy to do that, and so happy to be able to put out a news release saying we were back to 100% capacity. And this weekend coming up, we've got the Seattle Mariners coming to town, and the Baltimore Orioles in for 4. We got to beat up on the Orioles. I don't know what's going on with the way we were playing this weekend. Sunday's game was just ugly, as they say, but chance to rebound here against the Cardinals. But coming home to opening day 2.0, Friday, June 11, going to have some fun. Check it out at Indians.com. There's Sugardale Dollar Dogs and fireworks and a giveaway and having some fun, just getting back to 100% capacity. A summer weekend, our only summer weekend in June. And, once that game hits, Ray, we will have 30 games in 31 days. It is weird. We had an off day last Thursday. We have an off day Monday here. We have coming up Thursday an off day. And then we play 30 games in 31 days heading into the All-Star break. So pretty wild. So come and see us at the ballpark this weekend. Should be a whole lot of fun. Indians.com is the place to go to get all the info on the promotional calendar that's in place and game times for sure.
Bobby, I don't want to get too carried away. If you don't mind me, one more question before we finish this week's program, and that's Bobby Bradley.
Yes.
Over the weekend, a terrific Sunday where he had 3 hits, came off the bench and had a nice double on Saturday as well. He's a guy that we've watched in spring training swing it. I know a couple of years ago he had an opportunity and got fired quickly and then kind of went out a little bit. But I know the Indians really want this guy to come through. They made a tough decision with Jake Bauers, but give us, I love your background stories because you're tied in with the organization so deep. Talk about the organization and Bobby Bradley, this young guy.
Yeah, well, Bobby's done nothing but work his tail off, changed his body type, a big horse of a man, a big, strong kid. His Sunday's game, he took a left-handed pitcher, threw one a little low and away, and he took it deep to left field into the seats. So that shows you he's locked in, but also the kind of power he can generate with a low outside pitch from a lefty and put it in the left field seats. A baseball business decision on a guy out of options, wanting to make sure we had a final look at a 25-year-old youngster, to see if he could get find it in the big leagues with that swing and Jake Bauers, and it just didn't work, unfortunately. Now it's Bobby's turn. he has an opportunity here right in front of him to play a whole lot of baseball, get a whole lot of at bats, and we're all rooting for the kid. He's a tremendous young man, and like I said, he's worked so hard to change his body, working hard over the last not having a whole lot of baseball during 2020 with minor leagues shut down. So those kids were catching up, and but it was nice to see him. And I think for his confidence that he gets called up, goes into Baltimore and has some success, that's going to make him sleep better at night.
Of course, we saw him a few years ago in Akron belting the ball around Canal Park, that's for sure. There we go. It's called Hey Bobby, Vice President with the Cleveland Indians. Bobby DiBiasio joins us on a weekly basis here during the Major League Baseball season. We appreciate him carving out time in his schedule for us. Bobby, that's it for this week. We'll catch back up with you next week with more Hey Bobby.
Thank you, Ray. Have a good week, buddy. Go Tribe.